Captain William Thorne stood at the helm, salt-weathered hands gripping the wheel as dawn broke over the restless Atlantic. For 7 years, he'd sailed this same route, where the storm had claimed Margaret on their wedding day. The crew whispered he was chasing ghosts, but William sought only closure. This morning, however, something was different. A thick fog shrouded the waters, and the sea felt unnaturally still. When 2 small figures emerged from the mist onto his deck, twin girls with eyes the same piercing blue as Margaret's, William's heart nearly stopped. Their whispered words shattered his world. Daddy. Could the sea truly return what it had taken? Or was something darker at play? The brass locket hung heavy around William's neck as he descended to his quarters, the small portrait inside his only remaining connection to Margaret. His fingers traced its worn edges, a ritual performed countless times over the lonely years. Blackwater Bay had once revered the Thorne name. For generations, the family had built their shipping empire through shrewd business and sturdy vessels. William had been the pride of his father, Harvard-educated, commanding respect from hardened sailors twice his age, destined to expand the Thorne fleet beyond anything his ancestors had imagined, until Margaret Blackwood caught his eye at the governor's ball. Dark-haired and willful, with those piercing blue eyes that seemed to challenge him from across the room. Daughter of the rival Blackwood shipping family, she was forbidden fruit by all social calculations. "You're staring," she had said, appearing suddenly beside him on the terrace. "Mother says it's because the Thornes lack proper manners." "Your mother has never seen how Blackwood captains conduct themselves in foreign ports," he'd replied, earning a surprised laugh that transformed her face. Their courtship unfolded in secret, meetings at the harbor and whispered conversations at mandatory social functions. Both families noticed eventually. The Blackwoods accused William of corporate espionage, disguised as romance. His own father threatened disinheritance. "We'll lose everything if we stay," Margaret had whispered one night, the moonlight illuminating her determined expression. "Let's marry now. Tonight. Your ship leaves at dawn. We'll be passengers of our own destiny." The ceremony was hastily arranged in a small chapel near the docks, witnessed only by William's childhood friend and first mate, Samuel Walsh. They boarded the Northern Star hours later, Margaret laughing as sailors scrambled to prepare appropriate quarters for their captain's unexpected bride. "I've never seen you look so happy," Samuel told William as they watched her explore the ship. "But the Blackwoods will never forgive this. And your father? My father will understand once his temper cools," William had insisted. "And the Blackwoods will accept me when they see I make her happy." Dr. Edwin Hughes had displayed less enthusiasm upon meeting Margaret. The ship's physician had served the Thorne family for years, harboring an unspoken affection for William that the captain never acknowledged. His cold reception of Margaret was noted but dismissed in the joy of their departure. Only Thomas Riley, the ancient boatswain with his weather-beaten face and superstitious nature, had expressed genuine concern. "It's bad luck, Captain. A woman aboard is trouble enough, but a bride? The sea gets jealous of new brides. She takes what she wants." William had laughed off the warning, too consumed with happiness to heed such nonsense. The first 2 days at sea were paradise. Margaret proved herself a natural sailor, quickly learning the ship's rhythms and charming even the most hardened crew members with her quick wit. William watched his new world unfold with perfect clarity, his ship, his bride, his future all aligned like stars guiding him home. On the 3rd night, clouds gathered on the horizon. Riley had noted the unusual formation, the unnatural green tint as lightning flickered within. "Not right, Captain. Not natural. We should change course." But altering direction would add weeks to their journey. William had promised Margaret they'd reach the Caribbean islands where they would start their life together, away from family pressures. A mere storm wouldn't delay that dream. "We've weathered worse," William assured his crew. wrapping a protective arm around Margaret's waist as they watched the distant lightning. By morning, we'll have clear skies again. He couldn't have known that, by morning, his world would be shattered beyond recognition. That the sea would claim what it wanted after all. That for 7 long years, he would replay his decision, imagining alternate choices that might have kept Margaret safe. The locket snapped closed in William's weathered hand. Tomorrow, he would sail the same route again as he had every day since the storm. His crew called it madness. His family called it grief. William called it penance. But now, with 2 small girls appearing from the mist, their eyes an impossible blue, William faced a new torment hope. The gold wedding band had never been recovered. William had searched the churning waters for hours after the storm, diving repeatedly until Samuel and 2 crewmen had physically restrained him. In his darkest moments, William imagined it resting at the bottom of the Atlantic, still on Margaret's finger, an eternal promise unfulfilled. The storm had begun innocuously dark clouds gathering faster than predicted, the barometer dropping sharply as evening approached. Margaret had stood beside him on the quarterdeck, her hand in his as the first heavy raindrops fell. "Should we go below?" she'd asked, eyes bright with excitement rather than fear. "Not yet," William had replied, wanting to share this moment with her first real storm at sea. "It's magnificent to watch from a distance." But there had been no distance. Within an hour, a storm had transformed into something monstrous. Winds howled with unnatural voices. Waves rose to impossible heights. The Northern Star groaned under the assault as William barked orders, guiding his crew through the chaos while Samuel escorted Margaret to the captain's quarters. She hadn't stayed there. William spotted her when lightning split the sky, Margaret emerging onto the deck, clutching the railing as she made her way toward him. He'd called out, his voice lost in the tempest. He'd gestured frantically for her to return below. The wave that struck the starboard side lifted the ship nearly vertical. William had clung to the wheel, fighting to maintain control. When the ship crashed back down, Margaret was gone. "Man overboard!" The cry had pierced the howling wind. William abandoned the wheel to Samuel, sprinting across the slick deck, searching the churning waters for any sign of his bride. There a flash of white against the black sea, her nightgown billowing as waves carried her away from the ship. William had stripped off his coat, prepared to dive in after her. "Captain, no." Samuel had grabbed his arm. "You'll both be lost." William broke free, diving into the raging Atlantic. The cold shocked his system as he fought against the current, desperate eyes scanning for Margaret. He'd glimpsed her once more, hand outstretched toward him, her wedding ring catching a flash of lightning before she disappeared beneath the surface. For 3 days after the storm cleared, William refused to leave the area. The Northern Star sailed in ever-widening circles while crewmen kept watch. Hope diminished with each passing hour, but William remained vigilant, scanning the horizon until his eyes burned. On the 4th day, they found her nightgown, snagged on floating debris. Nothing more. "She's gone, William." Samuel had placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "We must return to port. I won't abandon her." "You're not abandoning her. She's not here anymore." The Thornes had arranged a memorial service that William refused to attend. His father's attempts at sympathy quickly turned to frustration when William immediately returned to sea, resuming his search. "This madness must stop," Henry Thorne had declared 6 months later, standing in William's cabin. "A business suffers while you chase ghosts. Margaret is dead. Accept it." William had thrown his father out, severing their relationship with words that could never be unsaid. The obsession only deepened with time. William charted currents and wind patterns, calculating where Margaret's body might have been carried. He interviewed sailors about similar incidents, collecting stories of miraculous survivals. The Northern Star's reputation changed from one of the most reliable merchant vessels to the ghost ship. Captained by a man haunted by more than memories, Samuel remained loyal despite his concerns, managing business affairs while William focused on his search. Dr. Edwin stayed as well, perhaps out of duty, perhaps hoping William would eventually turn to him for comfort. The crew rotated as many couldn't tolerate the grim atmosphere, but old Thomas Riley never left, his superstitions seemingly validated by their tragedy. William's life narrowed to a single purpose, a ritual repeated with devotion. Each dawn, he sailed the route of that fateful night. Each sunset, he recorded another day of failure in his logbook. Each night, he dreamed of Margaret beneath the waves, her hand outstretched, wedding ring glinting in the darkness, always just beyond his reach dot until today, when two small girls with Margaret's eyes whispered, "Daddy," and William's carefully constructed ritual shattered. Like glass against stone dot, the leather-bound logbook lay open on William's desk, its pages filled with 7 years of meticulous observations. Unlike official ships' logs with their practical notations of course and weather, this personal record documented William's search with obsessive detail: water temperature, cloud formations, unusual sightings. Each entry ended with the same words: "No sign of Margaret today." William dipped his pen, recording the morning's events before the twins' appearance. His handwriting had become cramped over the years, as if physically compressing his grief into the confines of these pages. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Enter. Samuel Walsh stepped inside, his once youthful face now weathered by years of shared sorrow. The first mate had aged prematurely, loyalty to William exacting its toll. "The men are asking questions about our visitors," Samuel said. "What should I tell them?" William closed the logbook. "Tell them nothing for now. They're saying it's bad luck. Riley's got them worked up with talk of sea spirits. Let them talk." William moved to the window, watching distant crewmen casting wary glances toward his cabin, where the twins now rested. "What do you think they are, Samuel?" "I think they're lost children who need to be returned to shore," Samuel answered carefully. "Whatever resemblance you see to Margaret, it's not resemblance. They have her eyes. Exactly her eyes." Samuel sighed. "William, we've been friends since boyhood. I would never lie to you. These children cannot be what you want them to be." Before William could respond, a new voice interrupted. "Begging your pardon, Captain." Jacob Marlowe stood in the doorway, relatively new to the crew, but already establishing himself as competent. "The doctor sent me. The girls are awake and asking for you." William brushed past both men, ignoring Samuel's concerned expression. Behind him, he heard Samuel murmur to Jacob, "Keep an eye on him. The captain hasn't been himself lately." The irony wasn't lost on William. He hadn't been himself for 7 years. Dr. Edwin's medical quarters were sparse, but meticulously organized, reflecting the man's precise nature. The physician stood over the twins, who sat side by side on an examination table, their identical faces impassive. "Fascinating," Edwin murmured, making notes. "I've checked their heartbeats, Captain. Remarkably slow, almost like hibernating creatures. And their skin temperature well below normal, yet they show no signs of distress." William approached slowly. In the lantern light, the girls looked even more like Margaret, the same delicate nose, the same determined chin. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. "Lyra," said the first. "Luna," said the second. They spoke in unison, their voices carrying an echo quality that raised gooseflesh on William's arms. "How did you come aboard my ship?" "Mother sent us," they replied together. Edwin exchanged a glance with William. "I've been asking them similar questions. Their answers are consistently ... unusual." William knelt before the twins. "Your mother. What's her name?" The girls tilted their heads identically, as if confused by the question. Mother is mother. Where is she now? Below, they answered, pointing downward. A cold knot formed in William's stomach. Below the waves? They nodded. Captain, Edwin interjected, these children need proper care ashore. Whatever their story, they stay with us, William said firmly. Later that evening, Samuel found William on deck, staring into the darkening sea. Your brother's ship was spotted following our course, Samuel said. Henry will likely intercept us by morning. William gripped the railing. He's still determined to have me declared unfit. The family business is suffering, William. Henry believes I should forget his sister-in-law and focus on profits. Samuel hesitated. He's not entirely wrong. The men have families to support. We've been running at a loss for months, changing course daily, taking no new cargo. William turned to his oldest friend. Do you wish to leave as well? I wish for you to find peace, Samuel answered honestly, whether that means continuing this search or finally letting her go. The conversation was interrupted by a disturbance among the crew. Thomas Riley was backing away from the twins, who had appeared on deck, making warning signs with gnarled fingers. Not right, the old sailor muttered. Eyes like glass they have, watching without blinking. The twins ignored him, moving directly to William. They reached for his hands with small, cold fingers. The tide is turning, they said. Soon you'll see. William looked past them to the horizon, where an unusual green glow tinted the underside of distant clouds. The same unnatural color he'd observed before the storm that took Margaret Dot in his cabin later. William made a new entry in his logbook, the first in 7 years that didn't end with no sign of Margaret today. Instead, he wrote, She may have found me at last. The silver bracelets encircling each girl's wrist caught the morning light, revealing intricate engravings that resembled no language William had ever encountered. Curved symbols flowed like water, occasionally interrupted by sharp, angular marks reminiscent of lightning. When he attempted to examine them more closely, the twins simultaneously pulled their arms away. Not for touching, they said, voices perfectly synchronized. Mother's protection. William sat across from them in his cabin, where they'd spent the night. Despite offering them his bed, he'd awoken to find them curled together on the floor, limbs partially submerged in a basin of seawater they'd somehow acquired. Your mother, William began carefully. Did she survive a shipwreck? The twins exchanged a glance, a silent communication passing between them. Not a wreck, said Lyra. A choosing, finished Luna. A choosing? The sea chose her, they said together. She chose to stay. William's heart pounded. Why did she send you to me now? After 7 years? Time moves differently below, Lyra explained. The ritual is soon, added Luna. What ritual? William leaned forward. Please, if Margaret is alive. A sharp knock interrupted them. Samuel entered without waiting for permission, his expression grave. Henry's ship is approaching from the east. And there's something else you should see. On deck, the crew had gathered at the starboard rail, murmuring anxiously. The fog that had delivered the twins yesterday still lingered, but had developed in unnatural quality tendrils reaching toward the ship like grasping fingers. Shifting from white to green, when caught by sunlight, more concerning, was the absolute stillness of the sea. No waves, no current, the water's surface like polished glass, reflecting the strange fog above. Not natural, Thomas Riley muttered, making warning signs. The children brought this with them. The twins had followed William onto the deck, drawing fearful glances from the sailors. As they approached the railing, the fog seemed to respond, curling more densely around the northern star. It recognizes them, Riley whispered. Seaborne, they are. Nonsense, Dr. Edwin countered, though his scientific certainty seemed shaken. Fog is water vapor, nothing more. Then explain why no wind dispels it, Riley challenged. Explain why the compass spins without finding north. Samuel confirmed this troubling development quietly to William. Navigation instruments are malfunctioning. We're effectively blind in this soup, Captain. Mother is coming, the twins announced suddenly, their voices carrying across the silent deck. Every man turned toward them. William knelt before the girls. Margaret is coming here? Now? Before they could answer, a sailor shouted from the bow. Ship approaching. It's the Thorne's Revenge. Henry's vessel emerged from the fog, gliding through the unnaturally still water. Unlike the Northern Star with its weathered appearance and outdated fittings, Thorne's Revenge gleamed with fresh paint and modern equipment, evidence of Henry's successful stewardship of the family business, while William pursued his obsession. As the ships drew parallel, Henry appeared at the rail, his face set in grim determination. The family resemblance between the brothers was striking yet contradictory. Same strong jaw and broad shoulders. But William's features had been softened by grief. Henry's had hardened with ambition. William, Henry called across the narrowing gap between vessels. I've brought the family solicitor and a physician from Boston. This madness ends today. William turned to Samuel. Keep him occupied. I need time with the children. But the twins had vanished from his side. William spotted them at the forecastle, their small hands clasped as they stared into the water. He rushed to join them, aware of the crew's wary eyes following his movement. What's happening? He demanded. You said Margaret, your mother, is coming? The gateway opens, they replied, pointing downward. William looked over the rail. Beneath the glassy surface, a faint illumination was growing, revealing what appeared to be an underwater structure, stone pillars rising from the depths, their surfaces carved with the same strange symbols that adorned the twins' bracelets. Impossible, he whispered. Captain, Samuel called urgently. Henry's launching a boat. Indeed, a small craft was being lowered from Thorne's Revenge. Henry himself climbing down the ladder to join what appeared to be a formal delegation. They're coming to take you away, Lyra said. To take us back, Luna added. Back where? William asked, unable to tear his gaze from the increasingly visible underwater structure. The twins raised their bracelet-bound wrists simultaneously, the silver suddenly glowing with inner light. To the kingdom below, they answered. Where she waits for you. The coral box rested in William's palm, no larger than a deck of playing cards. Its surface was impossibly smooth, as if polished by centuries of tidal movements, with a pink-orange hue that shifted in the lamplight. The twins had produced it from somewhere within their identical white dresses after William had hustled them back to his cabin, away from Henry's approaching delegation. Mother's gift, they explained, for the journey. William carefully lifted the hinged lid. Inside, nestled in a bed of something that resembled seaweed but shimmered with an inner phosphorescence, lay what appeared to be a map. He removed it gingerly, surprised by its resilience, not paper, but some unknown material with a texture of fine fabric yet impervious to the dampness of its storage. The map depicted coastlines William recognized from his years at sea, but with additions no cartographer had ever recorded. Beneath familiar shipping lanes, elaborate structures were illustrated in iridescent ink that seemed to move when tilted to the light underwater. Cities and strange formations that couldn't possibly exist. This can't be real, he murmured. All real, Lyra insisted. Mother walks these paths, Luna added. A marked route snaked from their current position toward waters. William knew well the area where Margaret had been lost. Beyond that point, the map showed a passage through underwater mountains to an island unmarked on any official chart. Pounding at the cabin door interrupted his examination. William, Henry's voice. Face me like a man, rather than hiding behind locked doors. William quickly folded the map and returned it to the coral box, tucking it into his coat pocket. "Stay here," he instructed the twins. "Speak to no one." They nodded in unsettling unison. When William opened the door, Henry pushed past him, followed by a distinguished older gentleman carrying a leather portfolio, and a thin man with spectacles who carried a medical bag. "7 years of this farce is enough," Henry declared without preamble. "I've brought Judge Crawford and Dr. Simmons to witness your condition and finally put an end to this." William straightened to his full height, momentarily every inch the commanding captain rather than the grief-stricken shadow he'd become. "You have no authority on this vessel." "I have every authority as acting head of Thorne Shipping to protect our family's interests," Henry countered. "You've depleted your inheritance, damaged our reputation, and endangered crews on a fool's errand." "Captain," Samuel appeared in the doorway, his expression apologetic. "I couldn't stop them." Henry gestured dismissively. "Your first mate understands what you refuse to acknowledge. This obsession has rendered you unfit for command." "My ship, my command," William stated flatly. "Now get off my vessel." Dr. Simmons cleared his throat. "Captain Thorne, your brother has described concerning behaviors daily sailing of the same route. Claims of seeing your deceased wife, refusal to accept reality. These suggest a profound melancholia that requires treatment." William's retort was cut short by the twins emerging from his private quarters. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to the identical girls. "Who are they?" Henry demanded, clearly caught off guard. Before William could answer, Luna stepped forward. "He misses our mother, but we've come to bring him to her," Lyra continued. Henry looked between the girls and William, confusion giving way to fresh concern. "You've taken children aboard? Unaccompanied minors? This is a new level of irresponsibility." "They came aboard my ship of their own accord," William replied, omitting the impossible circumstances. "And they have information about Margaret." The judge and doctor exchanged significant glances at this statement, as if it confirmed Henry's claims of delusion. "William," Henry's voice softened with practiced sympathy, "Margaret is dead. These children cannot possibly. She was wearing a blue dress the day you proposed." Luna interrupted. "With pearl buttons that caught the sunlight," Lyra added. "She said your hands trembled when you placed the ring on her finger." They finished together. Henry stared at them, color draining from his face. The details were correct. William had told Margaret this story on their wedding night, with no one else present. How could they know that? Henry whispered. William seized the moment of his brother's discomposure. "I intend to follow the course these children have provided. If you wish to declare me unfit, you'll need to do so upon my return." "Return from where?" Judge Crawford spoke for the first time. William removed the coral box from his pocket and revealed the strange map. "From here," he said, indicating the unmarked island, "where Margaret waits." Henry regained his composure. "This is precisely the delusion that concerns us." William turned to Samuel. "Set course according to this map. Now." Samuel hesitated, torn between loyalty and reason. "Captain, perhaps we should discuss—" "That wasn't a request, Mr. Walsh." Their eyes locked in silent communication. Decades of friendship weighed against increasingly irrational commands. Finally, Samuel nodded. "Aye, Captain." Setting new course. As Samuel departed, William faced his brother's delegation with renewed authority. "Gentlemen, I suggest you return to your vessel. The sea is growing restless." Indeed, the unnatural stillness had given way to a gentle rocking that was steadily intensifying. The twins smiled identically, their bracelets emitting a faint glow in the dim cabin. "The tides turn," they whispered. "The journey begins." The leather-bound journal was unmistakable, the same volume William had gifted Margaret on their wedding day, her initials embossed in gold on its cover. For 7 years, he believed it lost with her, swallowed by the same waves that had taken his bride. Yet here it was, clutched protectively in Lyra's small hands as the twins sat cross-legged on the deck, watching the crew adjust course according to their mysterious map. 3 days had passed since the Northern Star changed direction, leaving Henry's ship to follow at a cautious distance. The fog had lifted, but unusual phenomena continued. Schools of fish following their wake in formations too precise to be natural. Seabirds circling overhead in perfect concentric rings. Water occasionally glowing with bioluminescence even in daylight. William approached the twins carefully, still unsure how to interact with these children, who might be impossible, as it seemed his daughters. "That book," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Where did you get it?" "Mother's words," Luna replied, while Lyra opened the journal to a random page. William knelt beside them, his heart racing as he recognized Margaret's elegant handwriting. But the entry was dated 5 years after her disappearance. The transition becomes easier with time. What once felt like drowning now feels like freedom. I remember less of the world above, but I cannot forget him. The girls ask about their father. What can I tell them of a man they've never met, of a world they cannot visit? The sea witch promises they will meet him someday, when the time is right. I must believe her, though her promises always carry hidden costs. William's hands trembled as he turned to another entry, dated just months ago. The girls grow strong. Their dual nature becomes more pronounced, as comfortable beneath the waves as above them. The sea witch teaches them her ways, but I am sure they know they are Thorns as well. William would be proud of them. The eldest by minutes, Lyra, has his determination. Luna, his gentleness. Soon they will be ready for the crossing, to bring him to us. I fear what this will mean. The sea witch speaks of completing the circle, but will not explain further. This can't be real, William whispered, echoing his words from days earlier. All real, the twins responded in unison. William looked up to find Samuel watching with naked concern. "Captain," the first mate approached cautiously. "A word?" William reluctantly closed the journal, promising the twins he would return. He followed Samuel to the quarterdeck, away from curious ears. "The men are unsettled," Samuel said without preamble. "This course takes us through dangerous waters, following directions from ... children. You've seen the journal." "I've seen a journal," Samuel corrected. "Consider the possibility that these girls, whoever they are manipulating your grief. This could be an elaborate scheme. To what end?" Samuel hesitated. "There are those who would profit from your continued distraction. Your brother. Perhaps Henry wouldn't use children for such purposes. Then consider Jacob Marlowe." Samuel lowered his voice. "He's been taking particular interest in the twins. I caught him questioning them alone yesterday." William glanced toward the main deck, where Jacob was indeed watching the twins with unusual intensity. The relatively new crewman had proven capable but reserved, rarely sharing personal details. Have him monitored, William decided. But the course remains. Later that evening, William sat alone in his cabin, poring over Margaret's journal by lamplight. Entries documented an impossible existence, a transformation from human to something between worlds. Life in an underwater kingdom ruled by a mysterious sea witch, the birth and raising of twin daughters. A soft splash drew his attention. Turning, he discovered the twins had filled his washing basin with seawater and were submerging their hands, their expressions relaxing with evident relief. "You need the water," William observed. They nodded. "Can you breathe underwater?" he asked, testing the limits of this impossible reality. "We are of both worlds," Lyra explained. "Neither fully one nor the other," Luna added. William approached slowly. "And your mother?" "The change is harder for adults," they said together. "She can no longer walk upon land. But she sent us to bring you to her," Lyra continued. Because the sea witch requires completion, Luna finished. What completion? What does this sea witch want? The twins exchanged their characteristic glance, a silent communication William couldn't decipher. Matched souls, they finally answered. Pairs bound by love. She collects them, Lyra said. Like shells, Luna added. A knock interrupted them. Dr. Edwin entered without waiting for permission, his medical bag in hand. Forgive the intrusion, Captain, but I insist on examining the children again, he said. Their physiology continues to fascinate me. The variations from normal human function might explain their unusual claims. William hesitated, protective instincts surfacing. Another time, Doctor. Science may provide rational explanations, I said another time. As Edwin reluctantly withdrew, William noticed the twins smiling identically at him, the first genuine emotion they'd displayed. You protected us, Lyra observed. Like a father, Luna added. Something warm bloomed in William's chest hope, possibility, purpose beyond grief. He reached out tentatively, and after a moment's hesitation, they each took one of his weathered hands in their small, cool ones. Tell me everything about your mother, he said softly. Everything about Margaret. The brass spyglass seemed unremarkable, at first glance tarnished with age, its leather grip worn smooth from years of handling. William had purchased it on impulse from a peculiar shop nestled between more respectable establishments in Port Royal, where the Northern Star had docked for necessary supplies. The proprietor, an ancient woman with milky eyes and gnarled hands, had insisted it was meant for him. For those who seek what lies beneath, she'd whispered, refusing his payment. A gift from those who know your quest. Now, standing at the ship's rail as they prepared to depart, William extended the instrument and raised it to his eye. What he saw made him stagger backward. Beneath the harbor's murky surface, humanoid shapes moved with sinuous grace. Not fish, not human, but something between figures with elongated limbs and iridescent skin that caught the filtered sunlight. They seemed to be observing the ship, occasionally pointing toward it with webbed fingers. William lowered the spyglass, blinking. The harbor appeared normal to his naked eye, just dirty water lapping against weathered pilings. He raised the instrument again. The creatures remained, now forming a loose circle around something rising from the depths, a feminine figure with flowing dark hair. For one heart-stopping moment, William thought he recognized Margaret's face before the figure disappeared in a swirl of bubbles. Captain? Samuel approached, concern etched on his features. The harbor master cleared our departure. William reluctantly collapsed the spyglass. Tell the men to make ready. Their brief stay in Port Royal had proven eventful. The moment the twins had set foot on land, they'd become visibly uncomfortable, their normally pale skin developing a faint bluish tinge. Their movements becoming stiff and awkward. Worse was the reaction of the locals. An elderly fisherman had taken one look at the girls and made a warning sign, muttering about sea changelings. Others crossed the street to avoid them. When William purchased new dresses to replace their salt-stained garments, the shopkeeper had refused to touch their hands when offering the packages. Most disturbing was the ancient crone, who had approached them in the marketplace, gripping Lyra's wrist to examine her silver bracelet. The Witch Queen's mark, she'd hissed, tracing the strange symbols with a trembling finger. She takes what she wants from the world above, always in pairs, always bound by love. William had pulled the girls away, but not before the woman pressed a scrap of parchment into his hand. Later, in the privacy of a rented room, he'd examined it, a crude drawing of an island with a distinctive peaked mountain, surrounded by the same symbols found on the twins' bracelets. Beneath the drawing, spidery handwriting warned, "Those who search for the sea witch rarely return. Those who find her wish they hadn't." The island matched the final destination on the coral box map. Now, as the Northern Star pulled away from Port Royal. William watched the twins gradually regain their composure. Their skin returned to its normal pallor, their movements once again fluid. "You don't belong on land?" he observed quietly. "Not anymore," Luna admitted. "Mother tried to take us walking once," Lyra added. "It hurt her too much." "The transformation goes one way," they explained together, "unless the sea witch wills otherwise." Samuel approached again, breaking the moment. "Henry's ship was spotted entering the harbor as we left. He continues to pursue us." William nodded grimly. "Maintain course and speed. We'll use the night to increase our lead." Later, in his cabin, William found evidence of someone having searched his belongings. Margaret's journal slightly out of place, the coral box moved from its hiding spot. Nothing had been taken, but the invasion of privacy troubled him. A soft knock preceded Jacob Marlowe's entrance. "Reporting as ordered, Captain." William studied the man carefully. Of average height and build, with nondescript features, Jacob possessed the quality of being easily overlooked, a valuable trait for someone with secrets. "You've taken an unusual interest in our young guests," William observed. Jacob's expression remained neutral. "Unusual children deserve interest, Captain." "Who are you really, Mr. Marlowe?" "Your seamanship is adequate, but not exceptional. You ask too many questions. You watch too carefully." A slight smile played at the edges of Jacob's mouth. "Perhaps I'm simply curious about a captain who changes course on the word of mysterious children." "Perhaps," William agreed. "Or perhaps you're here for another purpose entirely." Their standoff was interrupted by the twins' arrival. They entered without knocking, moving directly to William's side with unusual urgency. "Others follow," they announced. "Not just Uncle Henry." William frowned. "What others?" "Servants of the Sea Witch," Lyra said. "Sent to ensure we complete our task," Luna added. Jacob's face remained impassive, but William caught a flicker of something recognition. Fear in the man's eyes. "You're dismissed, Mr. Marlowe," William said. After Jacob departed, William turned to the twins. "What task must you complete?" Their identical faces grew solemn. "To bring you below," they answered, "before the lunar alignment." "And if you fail?" The girls glanced toward the cabin door, where Jacob had exited. "Then others will ensure we don't return alone." The glass bottle gleamed with an inner blue light, casting eerie shadows across the cabin as William turned it in his hands. No larger than his palm, its surface was etched with the now familiar symbols matching the twins' bracelets. Inside, a luminescent liquid moved with unnatural fluidity, seeming almost alive as it shifted and swirled without any external stimulus. "Sea Witch's Tears," the twins had called it when they presented the vessel to him that morning. "To breathe below." William studied the mysterious substance with equal parts fascination and suspicion. "You expect me to drink this?" "When the time comes," they answered in unison. "And it will allow me to breathe underwater?" "Like you can?" "Temporarily," Lyra clarified. "Long enough to reach Mother," Luna added. A knock interrupted them. Dr. Edwin entered, his perpetually curious gaze immediately fixing on the glowing bottle. "Fascinating," the physician murmured. "May I?" Reluctantly, William handed over the bottle. Edwin held it up to the lantern light, examining the contents with scientific precision. "The viscosity appears inconsistent with any known liquid. And this luminescence without heat. Can you determine what it is?" William asked. Edwin carefully unstoppered the bottle, using a glass rod to extract a single drop onto a small dish. The liquid maintained its glow even when separated from the main volume. "I have some equipment that might provide insights." "With your permission, Captain?" After the doctor departed with his precious sample, William turned back to the twins. "If this substance allows breathing underwater, why not simply give it to Margaret so she could return to land. The girls exchanged their characteristic silent communication before answering. "The transformation only goes one way," they explained. "Mother has changed too much." "But you want me to join her beneath the waves," William pressed. "Would I also be changed permanently?" "The sea witch decides," they answered cryptically. Later that evening, William stood watch on the quarter-deck, the spyglass in hand. Through its enchanted lens, he observed massive shapes moving in the depths below, creatures unlike any documented in natural history texts. Some resembling the sea serpents illustrated on ancient maps. More disturbing were the humanoid figures that had begun following their course, dozens of them trailing in the northern star's wake, occasionally surfacing just enough for William to glimpse webbed hands or iridescent scales before they submerged again. Samuel joined him, face grave with unspoken concerns. "We lost sight of Henry's ship at dusk," the first mate reported. "Either he's abandoned pursuit or something happened to them," William finished. Samuel nodded grimly. "The men are frightened, William. 3 claim to have heard singing last night, voices calling their names from the water. Old sailors' tales. Mermaids luring men to their doom." "Perhaps those tales held more truth than we credited," Samuel suggested. "These waters aren't on any standard charts. The stars themselves seem ... wrong." William couldn't argue this point. The familiar constellations had gradually shifted over recent nights, with new formations appearing that matched no astronomical record. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion below. Jacob Marlowe was being restrained by 2 crewmen, while Dr. Edwin clutched his bleeding hand. "He tried to steal it," Edwin shouted as William approached. "The bottle." Jacob stopped struggling, his expression eerily calm, despite his predicament. "You don't understand what you're carrying, Captain." "What it really is." "Enlighten us, Mr. Marlowe," William said coldly. "That substance isn't merely a potion. It's her essence, the sea witch's power distilled. Each drop binds the drinker to her will." Jacob's eyes flicked to the twins, who had appeared at the edge of the gathering. "Ask them who they really serve." The crew muttered uneasily, many making warning signs. "How do you know this?" William demanded. A strange smile played across Jacob's face. "Because I've tasted it before. Years ago, when I sought what was lost to me." He rolled up his sleeve, revealing patches of iridescent scales beneath his human skin. "The transformation begins slowly, first in hidden places, then spreading until nothing human remains." William turned to the twins, whose expressions remained impassive. "Is this true? The sea witch's gifts always carry a price." They acknowledged. "Take him to the brig," William ordered, indicating Jacob. "Doctor, secure that bottle in my cabin." As the crowd dispersed, William confronted the twins privately. "You failed to mention this price when offering me this potion. You wouldn't have accepted otherwise," Lara said. "And Mother needs you," Luna added. "Mother needs me, or the sea witch needs me?" William challenged. Their silence was answer enough. That night, William pored over Margaret's journal, searching for clues about the true nature of the sea witch and her intentions. A passage near the end caught his attention. "The witch saved me from drowning, but at a cost I'm only beginning to understand. She collects souls in pairs-matched sets bound by love. For years I believed she needed only me, that William had been spared. Now I fear she merely bides her time, waiting until the children are old enough to serve as her messengers. What ceremony awaits when she has us both? What power does she draw from completed pairs? I leave this journal in hopes it reaches him first." With warning rather than false hope, William closed the journal, heart heavy with new understanding. Margaret hadn't sent the twins to reunite their family. She had sent them with a warning one they had chosen not to deliver. The spiral shell looked deceptively ordinary pale pink with delicate ridges. similar to countless others found on beaches around the world. But when Lyra pressed it to William's ear, what he heard was anything but ordinary. Not the familiar ocean echo, but distinct voices speaking in a language that sounded like water flowing over stones. Somehow both alien and hauntingly familiar. "They speak of your arrival," Lyra explained, her small hand steady against his. "The sentinels at the gateway," Luna added from his other side. William stood at the bow of the Northern Star, the mysterious Devil's Triangle spreading before them, a region shunned by commercial vessels, due to unpredictable currents and magnetic anomalies that rendered navigational instruments useless. The crew had grown increasingly mutinous as they'd approached, many refusing to come on deck at all. "This is madness," Samuel had argued that morning. "No ship that enters those waters returns intact. We should turn back while we still can." But William couldn't turn back. Not with Margaret's voice among those he'd heard through the shell, distant but unmistakable, calling his name with the same gentle inflection she'd used when waking him on lazy Sunday mornings. "How long have you had this?" William asked the twins, indicating the shell. "Always," they answered together. "Mother gave it to us at birth." "To hear both worlds," Lyra clarified. "Above and below," Luna finished. William studied the horizon, where dark clouds gathered unnaturally, forming a perfect ring around clear skies, like looking into the eye of a perpetual storm. "And beyond this triangle lies the island?" "Where Margaret is." "The island is the gateway," they corrected. "The kingdom lies beneath." The shell in William's hand suddenly grew warm. He raised it to his ear again and heard Margaret's voice more clearly. "William, danger. Don't trust." The message cut off abruptly as the twins reclaimed the shell, their expressions unreadable. By midday, the crew's fears reached breaking point. Thomas Riley led a delegation to the quarterdeck, the old sailor's weathered face grim with determination. "With respect, Captain, we won't sail into death for your ghosts," Riley declared. "These waters are cursed. These children are cursed. Turn back now, or we'll take matters into our own hands." The implied mutiny hung heavy in the salt air. William surveyed the men he'd commanded for years, seeing genuine terror in their eyes. Even Dr. Edwin looked shaken, his scientific skepticism eroded by weeks of inexplicable phenomena. "I won't order good men to their deaths," William conceded. "We'll anchor here. I'll continue by launch with volunteers only." Relief visibly swept through the gathered sailors, though it was tempered with concern for their captain's safety. Later, in his cabin, William was surprised when Samuel volunteered to accompany him. "You've stood by me through 7 years of grief," William said. "Don't feel obligated to follow me into madness as well." Samuel's weathered face creased with a sad smile. "We were boys together, William. Whatever awaits in those waters, you shouldn't face it alone." More unexpected was Dr. Edwin's insistence on joining the expedition. "The scientific discoveries alone would justify the risk," he explained, eyes bright with intellectual curiosity. "These children represent a biological impossibility I must understand." Most surprising was Jacob Marlowe's request to participate. William had released him from the brig, recognizing that the man's knowledge might prove valuable, despite his mysterious allegiances. "You claim to have encountered the sea witch before," William reminded him during a private conversation. "Why would you willingly return to her domain?" Jacob's fingers absently traced the scales spreading beneath his shirt cuff. "She has something of mine as well, Captain. Something I foolishly traded away." The twins had listened to these preparations in silence, their identical faces betraying no emotion. Only when William announced their departure at dawn did they speak. "The alignment approaches," they warned. 3 days remain." "Alignment of what?" William pressed. "Sun, moon, and a witch's crown," they answered cryptically. "When her power reaches its peak, that night." William dreamed of Margaret transforming her legs, melding into a sinuous tail, gills forming along her neck, her beautiful face becoming something predatory and alien. She reached for him with webbed fingers, her voice distorted by water. "Run while you still can." He woke gasping, the cabin unusually cold. The twins stood beside his bed, their eyes reflecting the moonlight like cats. "She calls to you," they said. "But others listen as well." William sat up slowly. "What aren't you telling me? What does the sea witch truly want?" "Balance," Lyra said. "Completion," Luna added. "A soul freely given," they finished together. Outside, the perpetual storm surrounding the Devil's Triangle intensified, lightning illuminating twisted clouds that seemed to form reaching hands against the night sky. In the distance, something massive breached the water's surface before disappearing again, leaving ripples that rocked. The Northern, star like a toy boat in a child's bathtub. Dawn couldn't come soon enough. The ships. Launch Hope cut through water that glowed faintly from within, an eerie bioluminescence that revealed dark shapes moving in the depths below. Barely 20 feet in length, the wooden vessel seemed impossibly small against the vastness of the Devil's Triangle, where the normal rules of nature had clearly been suspended. Despite calm surface conditions, the small boat moved as if drawn by invisible currents, requiring minimal rowing from its 5 occupants. William sat at the helm, the twins positioned at the bow like living figureheads, their silver bracelets glowing steadily brighter as they ventured deeper into the uncharted waters. Samuel and Dr. Edwin manned the oars when necessary, while Jacob Marlowe huddled amidships, his eyes constantly scanning the surrounding sea with evident anxiety. "We're being followed," Jacob murmured, breaking the tense silence that had persisted since their departure from the Northern Star at dawn. William didn't need the enchanted spyglass to confirm this observation. Sleek forms glided beneath the boat, occasionally surfacing just enough to reveal inhuman eyes watching their progress. "The sea witch is on her guard," Jacob continued when no one responded, "making sure the offering arrives intact." "We're not an offering," William said firmly. Jacob's laugh held no humor. "Tell them that." The launch entered a dense bank of fog that seemed to consume time itself. Minutes stretched into hours, yet the sun remained fixed overhead, neither rising nor setting as they progressed. Watches stopped functioning. The chronometer Edwin had brought specifically to document this phenomenon froze at precisely noon, its gears refusing to turn despite being fully wound. "Remarkable," the doctor muttered, making notes in a waterproof journal. "We've entered some form of temporal anomaly where—" "We're at the threshold," the twins interrupted in unison, "between your world and hers." The fog cleared abruptly, revealing a graveyard of ships stretching to the horizon. Vessels from every era floated in perfect preservation, ancient Greek triremes alongside 18th century frigates and modern steamships, all seemingly abandoned yet untouched by time. No barnacles encrusted their hulls, no rust-corrupted metal fittings. "God in heaven," Samuel whispered, making a warding sign. "These ships have been missing for centuries." "The witch collects more than souls," Jacob said grimly. As they navigated through the floating mausoleum, William recognized names from maritime legends, vessels reported lost without trace, their disappearances spawning ghost stories told in courts worldwide. The Marie Celeste, the Flying Dutchman, the Orang Medan. "This is impossible," Edwin breathed, his scientific worldview crumbling before his eyes. "Look there." Samuel pointed toward a familiar silhouette in the distance. "That's the Thorne's Revenge." Indeed, Henry's ship floated serenely among the ancient vessels, its deck empty of life. "Henry," William murmured, "what happened to my brother?" "The sea witch takes what she wants," the twins answered matter-of-factly. William turned to them with growing anger. Did you know this would happen? That Henry would be taken? Their identical expressions revealed nothing. All who enter uninvited face judgment. And we're invited? Samuel demanded. Only father, they replied, pointing at William. The implications chilled William more than the increasingly cold air surrounding them. His brother, his crew casualties of his obsessive quest. We should turn back, Samuel urged, gripping William's arm. While we still can. Before William could respond, the twins stood simultaneously, pointing ahead. The gateway opens, they announced. From the water rose an enormous stone arch, covered in glowing symbols matching those on the twins' bracelets. Water poured from carvings depicting creatures that were half human, half fish, not the beautiful mermaids of sailors' fantasies, but predatory beings with sharp teeth and clawed hands. The entrance to her kingdom, Jacob whispered, shrinking back. Just as I remember it. As they approached the massive structure, the twins began chanting in an unknown language that seemed composed of liquid sounds. Their bracelets glowed blindingly bright, sending beams of light toward matching symbols on the arch. The water beneath the stone gateway began swirling, forming a perfect whirlpool that emanated an otherworldly blue light. This is madness, Samuel hissed. William, I've followed you through grief and obsession, but this, no one is forcing you to continue, William interrupted, his gaze fixed on the gateway. Take the launch back. Save yourselves, and leave you alone? Never. The launch reached the edge of the whirlpool, the current tugging insistently at their small vessel. What happens now? William asked the twins. In response, Lyra retrieved the bottle of glowing liquid, the sea witch's tears, from her dress pocket. You drink, Luna explained. You breathe below. And if I refuse? Then Mother remains bound forever, they answered together. And the witch finds another to complete her collection. William took the bottle with trembling fingers, remembering Margaret's warning in her journal. The liquid glowed with hypnotic intensity, calling to something deep within him. For Margaret, he whispered, removing the stopper. William, don't. Samuel lunged forward, but too late. William drank the glowing liquid in one swift motion, feeling it burn down his throat like liquid fire before spreading ice through his veins. The world went dark as he tumbled overboard into the waiting whirlpool. The massive stone arch loomed overhead, its ancient surface now fully illuminated by an inner light that pulsed in rhythm with William's racing heart. Suspended in the whirlpool's center, he struggled against primal panic as water filled his lungs, expecting pain, expecting death, finding neither. Instead, each breath drew in liquid that somehow satisfied his body's need for air. A sensation both miraculous and profoundly wrong. The twins floated before him, their transformation in this environment startling. Webbed fingers and toes now fully extended, the slightest hint of gills visible at their necks, their movements graceful and natural, where William's remained clumsy and human. Their silver bracelets pulsed with the same light as the gateway, creating a visual harmony that suggested ancient, intentional design. Follow, they commanded, voices clear despite the surrounding water. William's new underwater vision revealed details invisible from above. The gateway was far more than a simple arch. Intricate carvings covered every surface, telling a story in images. Humans transforming into sea creatures, couples bound together by flowing chains. A crowned female figure presiding over the transformations with outstretched hands. The sea witch's history, Lyra explained, noting his interest. She was human once, Luna added, until the sea claimed her love. Like Mother, they finished together. A splash above drew William's attention. Jacob Marlowe had followed him into the water, his transformation more advanced than William had realized. The man's legs had partially fused into a tail-like appendage, his neck sporting fully formed gills. He swam toward them with predatory speed. The twins reacted instantly, their bracelets emitting pulses of energy that formed a barrier between Jacob and their small group. "Not invited," they declared. Jacob pressed against the invisible wall, his expression desperate. "She has my sister. Let me through." The twins remained unmoved. "Return to the surface. Tell them to wait 3 days." With a final frustrated lunge against the barrier, Jacob retreated upward, his powerful tail propelling him back toward the launch, where Samuel and Dr. Edwin watched from the surface world. William felt a momentary pang of concern for his oldest friend, left behind without explanation or certainty of his return. But the pull of what lay ahead of Margaret proved stronger than any lingering attachment to the world above. The twins led him deeper. Through the archway's center, where the swirling current formed a perfect tunnel downward. Ancient columns lined this underwater passage, each topped with stone sentinels, half-human figures holding tridents, their hollow eyes following the visitor's descent. "The original ones," the twins explained. "First to be transformed. How old is this place?" William managed to ask, his voice strange to his own ears beneath the water. "Older than your histories," they answered. "Younger than the sea itself." The passage opened into a vast underwater expanse that defied all natural laws. Enormous structures rose from the seabed, buildings that combined coral formations with architectural designs from countless human civilizations. Greco-Roman columns supported roofs resembling Asian pagodas. Renaissance domes topped walls carved with Egyptian hieroglyphics, all illuminated by bioluminescent plants that cast the entire city in ethereal blue-green light. Inhabitants moved through this impossible metropolis. Hundreds have transformed, humans in various stages of metamorphosis. Some retained mostly human features, with minor adaptations for underwater life. Others had progressed further, their lower bodies fish-like, upper torsos still recognizably human. The most transformed were barely humanoid, and all creatures more suited to the deepest ocean trenches than the world of air and sunlight. "The Sea Witches collection," Luna said. "Those who came before," Lyra added. William noticed they all moved in pairs, always two similar beings together, never separated, like matched sets in a collection. More disturbing was their vacant expression, eyes dull despite the wonder surrounding them. "Are they conscious?" William asked. The twins didn't answer directly. "Some remember their before lives," they said. "Others prefer to forget." At the city's center rose a palatial structure that dwarfed the surrounding buildings, a coral castle with towers, spiraling upward toward the distant surface, its walls embedded with countless pearls and gems that caught the bioluminescent light. Before its massive doors stood guards wielding tridents, similar to those held by the sentinel statues, their bodies almost fully transformed into fearsome sea creatures. "The Sea Witch's throne," the twins announced. "Where Mother waits." William hesitated, suddenly aware of the enormity of what lay ahead. The lingering effect of Margaret's warning in her journal warred with his desperate hope of reunion. 7 years of grief and obsession had led to this moment. "Before we enter," he said, "tell me the truth. Is Margaret truly herself? Will she know me?" The twins' identical faces betrayed a flicker of emotion, the first genuine feeling William had witnessed from them. "She remembers," they said softly. "She loves. She fears. What does she fear?" "What comes next?" they answered, their bracelets pulsing more urgently. "The completion." The trident dominated the throne room, its 3 massive prongs reaching toward the distant surface world like accusing fingers. Unlike the crude weapons carried by the guards, this artifact radiated ancient power crafted from material that resembled neither metal nor stone, but something between, its surface constantly shifting with colors that matched the surrounding sea. Symbols matching those on the twins' bracelets spiraled along its shaft. Pulsing with the same rhythmic light, William barely noticed the opulent chamber with its pearl-encrusted walls and living coral formations that grew and shifted in real time. His attention remained fixed on the throne itself empty, with no sign of Margaret or anyone who might be the mysterious sea witch. "Where is she?" he demanded, turning to the twins. Before they could answer, movement from a side chamber drew his attention. A tall figure glided into the room with inhuman grace, immediately commanding the space through presence alone. William's heart leapt, hoping to see Margaret. The figure was female, but unmistakably not his lost bride. Towering over 7 feet tall with an elongated body that seamlessly transitioned from humanoid torso to powerful serpentine tail. Her skin shimmered with iridescent scales and patterns too precise to be natural. Her face retained haunting traces of human beauty, though her eyes had evolved to massive proportions. Entirely black, except for vertical pupils that studied William with unsettling intensity. "William Thorne," she spoke. Her voice somehow both melodic and grating, like beautiful music played slightly out of tune. "Finally, you answer my invitation." The twins immediately prostrated themselves before her, bracelets touching the floor in obvious supplication. "We have brought him." "Your Majesty," they said in unison. "Yes," she agreed, circling William with predatory interest. "You have performed your task well." William fought to master his disappointment and growing dread. "Where is Margaret?" "Your children led me to believe she awaited me here." The sea witch's laugh resembled water bubbling over rocks. "My children? Is that what they told you?" She ran elongated fingers topped with translucent claws through Lyra's hair. "They are hers, certainly. Yours, potentially. But mine in loyalty." William looked at the twins with new uncertainty. "Where is Margaret?" he repeated. So impatient, the sea witch chided, gliding to the trident and wrapping her webbed fingers around its shaft. The weapon responded to her touch, its glow intensifying. 7 years searching, yet you cannot wait 5 more minutes? She struck the trident against the floor 3 times, each impact sending vibrations through the water and causing the chamber's illumination to pulse in response. From another entrance, 2 transformed guards appeared, escorting between them a figure that made William's heart stop. Margaret, or something that had once been Margaret. Her form retained a recognizable humanoid shape, but changes similar to the sea witch's had progressed throughout her body. Webbed fingers, patches of iridescent scales, enlarged eyes with the same vertical pupils. Yet her face, though altered, remained recognizable as the woman he had loved. Her expression, upon seeing William, contained a mixture of joy and horror. "William," she whispered, her voice distorted by gills that had formed along her neck. "You shouldn't have come." He moved toward her instinctively, but the guards blocked his path with crossed tridents. "Margaret, what happened to you?" The sea witch answered instead, circling the former couple with obvious satisfaction. "She was drowning. I offered a choice, transformation or death. Unlike most humans, she chose wisely." The witch's massive eyes blinked sideways. "Humans fear the deep, fear change. Margaret embraced both. You saved her?" William asked, struggling to reconcile this information with his assumptions. "I collected her," the witch corrected. "An exquisite specimen for my matched pairs." She gestured around the throne room, where William now noticed alcoves containing what appeared to be statues, perfectly preserved couples locked in eternal embraces. Their features caught in expressions ranging from bliss to terror. "Matched pairs," William repeated, remembering the twins' cryptic words. "Human connections fascinate me," the witch continued, trailing her clawed fingers across the trident's surface. "Love specifically. Such power in these bonds I have learned to harness to sustain my kingdom." William, Margaret spoke again, straining against her guards. The children, I sent them with my journal, with warnings. They delivered your journal, William confirmed. But not all of your warnings. The twins remained prostrated, avoiding their mother's accusing gaze. They serve the crown now, the sea witch said dismissively, as all who dwell here eventually do. What do you want from me? William demanded. The witch smiled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. 7 years ago, I collected half of a matched set. Today, you have kindly delivered the other half. She raised the trident, which now glowed blindingly bright. When the celestial alignment reaches its peak tomorrow, your reunion with Margaret will be complete and permanent. Your bond will power my domain for decades to come. Margaret's expression crumpled. I'm sorry, William. This is what I feared. Why I warned you away. The warnings were inconvenient, the witch said, gesturing to the twins. Fortunately, my loyal subjects ensured you received a more compelling invitation instead. William looked at his daughters, if they truly were his daughters, seeing them now as pawns rather than guides. You knew this would happen. You led me into a trap. They led you home, father, Lyra said quietly. To complete the family, Luna added, as we were promised. The crystal container pulsed with a steady rhythm, the human heart inside perfectly preserved and glowing with the same luminescence as the sea witch's potion. Margaret's heart, the last fully human part of her, suspended in a solution that kept it simultaneously alive and separate from her transformed body. William stared at the grotesque artifact with horror and fascination, understanding now the full extent of the sea witch's power and cruelty. The transformation requires sacrifice, the sea witch explained. Circling the pedestal where the heart container rested, the most human organ, the seat of emotion, preserved separately to maintain the connection to their former world. She gestured toward the alcoves containing the other collected couples. Each pair surrenders one heart, which anchors them to my realm. William looked at Margaret, who seemed physically pained by his proximity to her disembodied heart. Her partially transformed face still held echoes of the woman he'd loved, the determined chin, the slight asymmetry of her smile, the intelligence behind her now alien eyes. And tomorrow? William asked quietly. What happens during this completion ceremony? Your heart will join hers in the binding, the witch replied, caressing the crystal container with disturbing affection. Together, they will generate enough power to sustain my kingdom for decades. And we become like them, William concluded, nodding toward the preserved couples in their alcoves beautiful, vacant statues forever frozen in their final embrace. A small price for immortality, the witch said dismissively. You humans are so attached to your brief, insignificant lives. Here, you become eternal. Art, power, purpose. Prisoners, Margaret corrected, speaking despite her guard's warning gestures. Without will or consciousness. The sea witch's expression hardened. Ungrateful, after all I've given you. Life instead of death. Daughters instead of emptiness. William's gaze shifted to the twins, still kneeling with their silver bracelets touching the floor. Are they truly our children? He asked Margaret directly. Before she could answer, the sea witch intervened. Born of her transformed body, carrying your combined essence. The only successful births in my kingdom in centuries. Pride and possessiveness colored her tone. My greatest achievement, creatures of both worlds from their first breath. They were meant to be our future, Margaret said softly. Not her agents. The twins remained silent, though William noticed a subtle tension in their identical postures. The first hint that perhaps their loyalty to the sea witch wasn't absolute. Take him to the preparation chamber, the witch commanded her guards. The alignment begins at tomorrow's high tide. As scaled hands gripped William's arms, he locked eyes with Margaret one last time, trying to convey everything he couldn't say aloud. Her altered face registered recognition, determination, and something else, a plan, perhaps. Or at least hope. In a private chamber, carved from coral and mother-of-pearl, William paced like a caged animal, the sea witch's potion still enabling him to breathe underwater, but doing nothing to calm his racing thoughts. The room contained no obvious exits besides the heavily guarded door through which he'd entered. No windows, no tools, nothing he could use to escape or fight back. A hidden panel slid open, revealing Jacob Marlowe, his transformation even more advanced than earlier. Body now more fish than human. "You shouldn't have drunk the potion," Jacob said without preamble. "The changes have already begun." William felt his neck, discovering with horror small slits that had begun to form beneath his jawline. "How did you get in here?" "I thought the twins prevented you from entering. There are other ways into the kingdom for those who visited before," Jacob replied. "Hidden passages the witch's sentinels don't monitor." "Why help me?" "You said she has something of yours." "My sister," Jacob confirmed. "Part of a matched pair, taken 5 years ago. The witch ... miscalculated. The bond between my sister and her husband wasn't strong enough to generate the power she needed. They're still here, preserved but not yet incorporated into her collection. I've been searching for a way to free them." "And you think I can help?" Jacob's transformed features twisted into what might have been a smile. "I think tomorrow's ceremony presents an opportunity. The witch will be focused on you and Margaret, the strongest pair she's found in decades, according to her preparations." William absorbed this information, mind racing with possibilities. "How did you resist her control?" "The twins, the other transformed humans, they all seem to serve her without question." "The bracelets," Jacob explained. "They're not merely decorative. They bind the wearer's will to hers. I've managed to avoid receiving one by keeping my visits unauthorized." A commotion outside interrupted their conversation. The panel slid shut just as the chamber door opened, revealing the twins. "Father," they said in perfect unison, their expressions unreadable. "We must prepare you for tomorrow." William studied his daughters, if they truly were his daughters, with new wariness. "Prepare me how?" In response, they each removed a silver bracelet from their wrists, the matching set gleaming ominously in the chamber's eerie light. "For the binding," they answered. "For completion." The silver whistle had been William's constant companion since his academy days, a symbol of command carried by generations of Thorne captains. Small enough to conceal in his palm, its distinctive high-pitched tone could carry across his ship's deck even in the fiercest storm. William had never imagined it might work underwater. But as the twins approached with their binding bracelets, he found his fingers closing around the familiar object still secured to his belt. "Wait," he said, backing away from his advancing daughters. "Before you bind me, I want to speak with your mother again." The twins paused, identical heads tilting as they communicated silently. "Impossible," they finally replied. "Preparation must be completed before moonrise." William noticed their bracelets. Each twin still wore one, though they held the matching pair intended for him. "Those control you," he said, nodding toward the silver bands. "Jacob told me the truth." A flicker of emotion crossed their faces, the first genuine reaction he'd witnessed. "They connect us," Lyra corrected. "To the kingdom," Luna added. "To the witch," William countered. "Not to your mother. Not to me." Their synchronized movements faltered slightly. "Mother warned us about Father's cleverness," they murmured. Almost to themselves, William seized the moment of hesitation. "Margaret sent you with her journal with warnings. But you delivered only half the message. Why?" "The sea witch promised us a complete family," Luna whispered. "If we brought you here willingly," Lyra continued. "She lied," William said gently. "Tomorrow's ceremony won't unite us." It will imprison us, just like the others in her collection. The twins glanced toward the door, their loyalty visibly wavering. William pressed his advantage. Help me reach Margaret. Help us escape. Be part of a real family, not the witch's puppets. After a tense moment, they nodded almost imperceptibly. We cannot free you, they said, but we can delay the preparation. As they retreated from the chamber, William immediately examined his surroundings with renewed purpose. Jacob had mentioned hidden passages. Perhaps there was a way to reach Margaret before the ceremony. Pressing against coral walls, he searched for any irregularity. Near the chamber's far corner, a section yielded slightly to pressure. William pushed harder, revealing a narrow tunnel that appeared to connect to adjacent rooms. Before entering, he removed the captain's whistle from his belt. If Jacob had found a way into the underwater kingdom, perhaps Samuel and Dr. Edwin could as well with proper guidance. Drawing a deep breath of the strange water air that filled his lungs, William blew the whistle with all his strength. The sound that emerged was unlike anything he'd heard before, not the familiar sharp tone, but something deeper, resonating at a frequency that made the coral walls vibrate. The water itself seemed to carry and amplify the sound, transforming it into a haunting call that traveled far beyond the confines of his prison. On the surface, 3 days' journey from where they had left the Northern Star, Samuel and Dr. Edwin maintained their vigil beside the stone gateway. The small launch bobbed gently on unusually calm seas, its occupants increasingly concerned about their captain's fate. It's been hours, Samuel said, peering into the water's depths. We should consider returning to the ship. Edwin shook his head. He said to wait 3 days. I intend to honor that request. Their debate was interrupted by a strange vibration that seemed to emanate from the water itself, growing in intensity until it became an unmistakable sound. William's command whistle, distorted but recognizable. He's alive, Samuel breathed. Gripping the boat's edge, Edwin's scientific curiosity overcame his caution. Fascinating. Sound waves traveling through water at such distances without significant degradation suggests. It suggests he needs help. Samuel interrupted. But how do we reach him? Their answer arrived unexpectedly as Jacob Marlowe surfaced beside their boat, his transformation now so advanced that Samuel recoiled in shock. The captain lives, Jacob confirmed. But not for long if the sea witch completes tomorrow's ceremony. Edwin studied Jacob's altered form with undisguised fascination. You appear to have undergone significant physiological changes that save your observations. Jacob cut him off. The witch's realm can be entered without her blessing, but not without cost. He held up a small vial containing the same glowing liquid William had consumed. I've collected enough for both of you, if you're willing to risk the transformation. Samuel eyed the potion warily. You're suggesting we drink that? Become like you? Temporarily, Jacob claimed, though doubt shadowed his features. If we succeed in disrupting the ceremony before the celestial alignment completes. And if we fail? Edwin asked, already reaching for the vial, with scientific curiosity overshadowing caution. Jacob's transformed face couldn't quite manage a human expression. Then you join the witch's collection, like all who enter her domain uninvited. Samuel took the whistle from his own belt identical to William's, a mark of his position as first mate. We'll need a way to communicate if we're separated below. Deep beneath the surface, William made his way through the hidden passage, following intuition and the subtle current that seemed to flow through the underwater kingdom. The transformation had progressed further, webbing, now clearly visible between his fingers. Gills fully formed at his neck, vision adapted to the dimly lit corridors. He emerged into a chamber smaller than his own, finding Margaret chained to a coral column with bands matching the twins' bracelets. Her eyes widened at his appearance. William, she whispered, How did you— Our daughters are perhaps not entirely lost to the witch's influence, he replied, moving to examine her restraints. And it seems we're not the only ones working against her plans. The celestial navigation chart dominated the sea witch's private chamber, an ancient artifact unlike any map William had ever encountered. Not drawn on paper or parchment, it appeared to be living coral formed into a perfect model of the sky above and the sea below, continuously shifting to reflect real-time movements of heavenly bodies. Constellations glowed with bioluminescent precision, while tiny representations of sun and moon orbited the model, their alignment visibly approaching a configuration marked by a crown-like formation of stars. William and Margaret stood transfixed before this marvel. Having gained access to the witch's sanctum through the hidden passages Jacob had revealed, the room contained countless treasures collected over centuries, artifacts from shipwrecks, scientific instruments from every era, books preserved in transparent resin. But the chart commanded attention through its otherworldly beauty and obvious importance. The alignment that powers her ritual, Margaret whispered, her webbed fingers hovering above the miniature celestial bodies. Once every 70 years, when the witch crown constellation aligns perfectly with both sun and moon. How do you know this? William asked, studying his wife with newfound wonder. Despite her transformation, the scales now covering much of her body, the enlarged eyes adapted for underwater vision, he still recognized the keen intelligence that had first drawn him to her. 7 years provides ample time for observation, she replied with a hint of her old dry humor. The witch doesn't consider her specimens capable of understanding her work. William's gaze returned to the chart. Jacob mentioned the ceremony harnesses power from matched pairs. From love, Margaret nodded. Human bonds create energy she can't generate herself. The stronger the connection, the more power produced. Her transformed features softened. She's been particularly eager to complete our collection. Apparently, we generate unusual readings on her instruments. William reached for her hand, ignoring the strangeness of her webbed fingers against his increasingly similar ones. 7 years of searching for you. I'd say our connection is rather significant, which makes us exceptionally valuable, she finished, and exceptionally dangerous if we resist. The chart suddenly pulsed brighter, drawing their attention back to the celestial model. The crown constellation had moved perceptibly closer to alignment with the sun and moon. We don't have much time, Margaret said urgently. When the alignment completes, she extract your heart to join mine in the binding crystal. Our connection will power her realm for decades, while our consciousness remains trapped in perpetual stasis. William examined the chart more carefully, noting how certain pathways in the underwater kingdom illuminated in response to the shifting celestial bodies. These connections, they show where power flows through her realm? Margaret's eyes widened with realization. Yes, the entire kingdom is a massive conductor, channeling energy from the collected pairs to the throne room. So if we disrupt the alignment, we might disrupt her power source, Margaret finished. But the chart is synchronized with actual celestial movements. We can't change the stars. William studied the coral formation with the practiced eye of a navigator. Perhaps not, but we might change how their energy reaches her. A noise from the adjacent chamber interrupted their planning. The twins entered through a hidden panel, their identical expressions troubled. She searches for you, they warned. The ceremony preparations have begun. William regarded his daughters with cautious hope. Their willingness to help locate Margaret suggested their loyalty to the sea witch wasn't absolute, but neither had they removed their remaining bracelets. Why are you helping us? He asked directly. The twins exchanged their characteristic silent communication before responding. We want a family. Lyra began. Not a collection, Luna finished. The sea witch promised we would be together. They continued in unison. But not like this. Margaret approached them cautiously. You've seen her other specimens. You know what happens after the ceremony. They nodded solemnly. Empty shells. No thoughts. No feelings. Help us stop the ritual, William urged. Be part of our real family. Before they could respond, a disturbance rippled through the water around them, a shift in pressure followed by distant sounds of commotion. Someone has breached the perimeter, the twins announced. Their bracelets glowing in response to the kingdom's alarm. William exchanged a hopeful glance with Margaret. Samuel and Edwin, they received my signal. The witch's guards will find them, the twins warned. Not if they're sufficiently distracted, William countered, his gaze returning to the celestial chart. This powers everything, including the defenses? Margaret nodded slowly, understanding dawning. If we damage it, the kingdom systems would temporarily fail, William confirmed, creating a diversion for our friends while revealing the witch's vulnerability. The twins' bracelets pulsed more urgently as the kingdom's alert intensified. We must decide now, they said. Her or you? William looked at his daughters, their familiar eyes in unfamiliar faces, their existence a miracle he'd never dared hope for during his 7 years of searching. I won't force your choice, but know that whatever happens, whatever you decide, you are our children. You will always be loved. Something shifted in their identical expressions. Fracture in their perfect synchronicity, as individual thoughts formed for perhaps the first time. We choose family, Luna said, her voice distinctly our own. True family, Lyra added separately, with deliberate movements. They each removed their remaining bracelet, severing their connection to the sea witch's control. The silver bands clattered to the floor, their glow fading like dying embers. Now, William said, turning to the celestial chart, let's create a distraction. The binding chains gleamed with an unnatural light, their links crafted from a metal unknown to surface dwellers. Each segment was inscribed with the same symbols that decorated the twins' discarded bracelets, but at a scale that revealed their true complexity, not mere decoration but a language, a spell, a binding contract between worlds. Suspended above the throne room's central altar, they awaited the ceremony that would forever imprison 2 souls in the sea witch's collection. Chaos erupted throughout the underwater kingdom as the damaged celestial chart sent conflicting energies through the network of conduits. Lights flickered between blinding brilliance and complete darkness. Guardian statues animated by the witch's power moved erratically, some attacking their own kind in confusion. Specimens in the collection stirred in their alcoves, awareness briefly returning to their vacant eyes as the power binding them fluctuated. The sea witch herself rose to her full height, her serpentine form towering in the throne room as she clutched her trident with white-knuckled fury. Find them, she commanded her guards. The alignment approaches. They cannot be allowed to disrupt the ceremony. But disruption had already arrived in multiple forms. Samuel and Dr. Edwin, partially transformed by Jacob's potion, fought alongside their unlikely ally against the witch's sentinels at the kingdom's outskirts. The twins, having chosen their family over their captor, systematically released specimens from the collection, creating further disorder throughout the palace. And at the heart of this chaos stood William and Margaret, facing the sea witch directly as they emerged from hidden passages into the throne room. You dare? The witch hissed, her voice distorting with rage. After I saved you from drowning? After I gave you children when your human body could bear none? Margaret moved forward, her transformed body allowing her to match the witch's fluid movements. You saved me to collect me, to use me. That isn't mercy, it's imprisonment. The witch raised her trident, its prongs gathering energy from the water around them. You've forgotten your place, specimen. Perhaps watching your precious captain's heart being extracted will remind you of your proper gratitude. William stepped beside his wife, their shoulders touching in a simple gesture of unity that sent visible ripples of energy between them. The witch's instruments embedded in the walls registered this connection, needles swinging violently to indicate power levels beyond their designed capacity. 7 years I searched for her, William said quietly. 7 years I sailed the same waters, called her name to empty horizons, refused to surrender to despair. That connection can't be broken, even by you. Touching, the witch sneered. Such devotion will generate exceptional power once properly harnessed. She gestured to the binding chains above the altar. Your bond won't break it, will simply serve a greater purpose. You misunderstand, Margaret countered. The power isn't in our capture. It's in our choice to remain connected despite separation. The throne room doors burst open as the twins entered, pursued by guards. They rushed to their parents' side, forming a family unit that generated even stronger energy readings on the witch's instruments. The children, too. The witch's composure cracked further. After all I've given you, all I've taught you? You taught us control, Lyra answered. Mother taught us love, Luna finished. The witch raised her trident higher, prepared to strike, when a new disturbance diverted her attention. Samuel, Edwin, and Jacob had fought their way to the throne room, bringing with them several freed specimens, including Jacob's sister and her husband, their expressions showing the first signs of returning consciousness. Your collection is dismantling itself, Jacob announced. His transformed features twisted in satisfaction. Your power wanes with each pair that remembers their connection was formed by choice, not coercion. The witch's response was a surge of energy from her trident that sent everyone except William and Margaret crashing against the walls. The binding chains descended from the ceiling, wrapping themselves around the couple with inexorable precision. The alignment comes regardless of your interference, she snarled, gesturing toward a shaft of light that had begun to penetrate the water from above, the celestial conjunction approaching its peak. Once your hearts join the collection, no amount of rebellion will matter. The chains tightened, pulling William and Margaret toward the altar. Despite their resistance, the ancient metal responded to the witch's power, constricting further with each pulse from her trident. William, Margaret gasped through the pressure. The chains, they feed on resistance. Understanding dawned in William's eyes. After 7 years of fighting against loss, of refusing to accept separation, the solution lay in surrender, not to the witch, but to their connection itself. Together, he whispered, ceasing his struggle against the chains and instead reaching for Margaret's transformed hand. She understood immediately, her own resistance transforming into deliberate movement toward him rather than away from the altar. The chains, programmed to counter resistance, faltered momentarily in confusion. The witch sensed the shift in energy. No, she screamed, diving toward them with trident extended, but she was too late. William and Margaret's hands connected, their fingers intertwining, despite the webbing and scales that now marked them both. The touch completed a circuit begun 7 years earlier, generating a surge of energy that overwhelmed the binding chains. Instead of restricting their connection, the chains inadvertently amplified it. Light erupted from their joined hands, traveling through the metal links and redirecting the power meant to feed the witch's collection. The chains themselves became conduits for an energy the witch had never fully understood, love freely given rather than coerced, connection chosen rather than enforced. The celestial alignment reached its peak, the shaft of light striking the altar directly. But instead of flowing through the witch's trident to her collection, the energy channeled through William and Margaret, then outward to every pair in the kingdom. Collection alcoves shattered as awareness returned to the imprisoned specimens. The binding chains around William and Margaret glowed, white-hot before dissolving into particles that scattered through the water like luminescent snow. Throughout the palace, similar chains and restraints failed simultaneously. The witch shrieked as her power source imploded, her trident absorbing the backlash of energy and conducting it directly into her transformed body. Her form began to shift and destabilize, scales falling away to reveal something ancient beneath a creature far older than the human she had once pretended to be. "What have you done?" she gasped, her voice no longer beautiful, but grating and alien. "The kingdom cannot survive without the collection's power." As if in response to her words, the palace itself began to tremble. Coral walls cracked. Supporting columns collapsed. The water pressure shifted dangerously as the magic sustaining the underwater structure failed. "We need to leave," William shouted above the destruction. "All of us now." The twins moved to their parents' side, their natural adaptation to water making them ideal guides. Samuel, Edwin, and Jacob gathered the disoriented freed specimens, organizing a desperate evacuation as the kingdom began to collapse around them. "This way," the twins called in unison, leading the growing group toward the hidden passages that offered the fastest route to the surface. "Gateway." William turned back once to see the witch clinging to her throne, her form continuing to deteriorate as her centuries of power unraveled. Their eyes met across the disintegrating chamber, his filled with determination, hers with hatred and fear. "You've destroyed everything," she accused. "No," William countered. "We've freed everyone." Then he turned away, taking Margaret's hand as they followed their daughters toward freedom, the underwater kingdom crumbling into ruins behind them. The new locket gleamed in the sunset, its gold surface catching the last rays of daylight as William held it open in his palm. Unlike the old one with its single portrait of Margaret, this larger piece contained 4 miniatures William, Margaret, and the twins, their faces rendered with remarkable detail by an artist in Blackwater Bay who had asked no questions about the unusual. Family who commissioned the work. 6 months had passed since their escape from the collapsing underwater kingdom. The Northern Star now rested at anchor in a private cove near the Thorne family's coastal estate, modified with William's newfound understanding of both worlds. The lower deck had been converted into a partially submerged chamber where Margaret could exist comfortably despite her permanent transformation. The twins moved freely between water and air, their dual nature now a bridge rather than a burden. William himself had changed in ways both visible and invisible. Webbing remained between his fingers. Gills still lined his neck, permanent reminders of his journey beneath the waves. The Sea Witch's potion had altered him irreversibly, though less completely than Margaret. Neither fully of the land nor entirely of the sea, he existed in the space between a fitting metaphor for his new life. "They're returning," Margaret called from the shallow water beside the shore, her voice carrying the slight, resonant quality of her transformed vocal cords. William turned to see the twins racing toward the beach, Luna swimming with powerful strokes, while Lyra ran along the shoreline. Their competition ended in breathless laughter as they reached their parents simultaneously. Uncle Samuel's ship was spotted rounding the headland. Lyra reported excitedly. "Dr. Edwin is with him," Luna added. "They've brought new books." William smiled at their enthusiasm. Samuel had taken command of the Thorne shipping business, rebuilding the family's fortunes while allowing William to focus on his unconventional family. Edwin had transformed his experience into a new scientific passion, documenting the physiological adaptations of those who had returned from the deep, always careful to present his findings as theoretical rather than observed. The fate of the other freed specimens had varied. Most, like Jacob's sister and her husband, had established lives in coastal communities, finding ways to exist between worlds. Jacob himself had disappeared shortly after their escape, his transformation too advanced for comfortable return to human society. Occasionally, Fishermen reported sightings of a solitary figure swimming far offshore, watching over the waters above the collapsed kingdom. Henry had been among those they rescued. The Sea Witch's collection had included William's brother, captured during his pursuit of the Northern Star. Their reunion had been complicated but healing. Old grievances washed away by shared trauma and understanding. Henry now visited regularly, gradually accepting his brother's transformed family. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in colors no artist could capture. William closed the locket and slipped it into Margaret's waiting hand. She clasped it around her neck, the golden heart resting against scales that shimmered with iridescent beauty. 7 years searching for what was lost, William mused, watching the twins chase each other along the waterline, their movements reflecting both human playfulness and inhuman grace, only to find something I never imagined. Margaret's webbed fingers intertwined with his. Do you ever regret it? The changes? The life we might have had? William considered this as he watched Samuel's ship approaching in the distance. His old friend had adapted to the truth with remarkable resilience, accepting the impossibilities they had witnessed and helping create a new normal in their wake. I regret the years we lost, William answered honestly, but not the family we found. He gestured toward the twins, now collecting shells at the water's edge. They're miracles, Margaret. Our miracles. Even with the Sea Witch's influence in their creation? William smiled. Especially then. Something beautiful emerging from something terrible. Isn't that the greatest victory? A distant sound echoed across the water, haunting and melodic, like voices singing beneath the waves. The twins paused in their play, heads tilted in identical poses of concentration. The kingdom is stirring, Lyra said softly. New growth upon the ruins, Luna added. William and Margaret exchanged concerned glances. You're certain the witch was destroyed? Margaret asked, not for the first time. Her form was, William acknowledged. But the sea keeps its secrets well. The singing faded, replaced by the normal sounds of waves against shore. The moment of unease passed as Samuel's ship dropped anchor in the cove, bringing familiar faces and new stories to share. Whatever might stir in the depths could wait for another day. Tonight was for family, not the perfect family William had once imagined during those long years of searching, but the extraordinary one he had found instead. Bridging two worlds with a connection even the Sea Witch had failed to understand. As twilight deepened into true night, William glanced once more toward the horizon where sea met sky. Somewhere beyond that line, the ruins of the underwater kingdom rested on the sea, a reminder of both danger and possibility. Whatever came next, they would face it together, their bond stronger for having been tested in the deepest waters.